Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of Rants, Speeches, Monologues, and yada yada yada. Let's get to the point. This is a back-to-back recording of last episode, featuring more mac and cheese. Yum. Anyway, so I was talking about Brave New World last episode, and now I want to talk about something that reminded me of. You should probably listen to the last episode; it'll get you in the mood for this one. It's only 17 minutes long. So, when you love a memory, that means that you can love anything, not just a person. People who think that it's insane that people fall in love with video game characters and characters from stories and people that don't actually exist and physical objects and all sorts of things. People in that category who ridicule those people are just like people who have never loved. They don't have the memories of being in love with that thing, so they can't comprehend that someone could be in love with it. They may be in love with someone, but they're not in love with a video game character. They can't see the similarities. Now, I'm a Nuzlocker. I'm also a story writer. I'm an RPer, but I don't role play. It's just what we call it. I have, if I count everyone, I have about 38 characters, but I have about 23 developed characters, and about 7 really well developed characters that I have a good relationship with. More like 12. Anyway, I also play Pokemon, and I Nuzlocke. And Nuzlocking is your Pokemon can die. You can't let them faint, or you have to stop using them in the run. Now, just because they die doesn't mean they're dead. I believe I've talked about that before. I can still use them in other places, like in battle emulators and stuff. But in that plotline, they are no longer able to be used. I should do a rant on dying isn't being dead. Anyway, I thought of something. So, my older brother, finally has something we can talk about that we share a similarity with. He watched every single episode of every season of Red vs. Blue. Binged it for 3 weeks. So, I talked to him about some stuff. Now, spoilers for Red vs. Blue. Spoilers, really. I mean, it's an amazing series. You have to watch it. Please do not listen if you don't want to get spoiled. The entire rest of the episode will talk about Red vs. Blue spoilers. I don't care if I lose views on this video or audience retention. Please leave and watch Red vs. Blue, or just leave in the first place if you have not seen or been caught up with Red vs. Blue. Because I'm going to be talking about an episode that came out 2 weeks ago. So you better be caught up. Red vs. Blue is a series that's been running for about 13 years, I think. And they're on their 12th season. Well, I guess that'd mean they've been running for 12 years. Over a decade. It's the longest running web series or sci-fi web series or whatever in history on the internet. It holds this record, and it's what it is. It's a machinimated show. It's a show shot with Halo games, all of the Halo games, actually, except for Halo Wars, all the mainline Halo games. Okay? And what they do is, they started with this plotline of, wait, why am I introducing it if I only want people who have watched it? What the fuck am I doing? Anyway, jumping right into the spoilers. So, my main idea for this rant, speech, monologue, whatever, is Epsilon. Not Church, not the director, not Alpha, Epsilon. Now, we all remember, from all throughout many of the seasons in the middle of the show, that memory is the key. And what we ended up realizing was, he was talking about Epsilon. But memory is the key went beyond just Epsilon. It went to Tex, it went to Church, it went to everyone. And the amazing thing about this is, Epsilon in the current series is a third-generation character. I always have searched for this idea that if you could develop a character enough so that it becomes as developed as any other person in your life that exists in your head as a mental image of that person or of yourself, if you can get a sentient character that thinks on their own, if you can have a schizophrenic character. I know that schizophrenia is very serious, and a lot of the characters in it aren't really serious and aren't really developed, and they're just mad voices. But if you can have a character that you can like put on as a persona, and they're fully developed, and they're human, well, not human, they're intelligent and sentient, then, you know, they're a person, and you have every right to feel for that thing. That character, that person. Now, the concept is, if you could write a story about a character and develop that character enough so that they're intelligent enough to create other characters. So that you write a story about a character writing a story. And that story that the character is writing is about a character that writes stories. So you're writing that there's this guy and he's writing a book about a guy writing a book. About a guy writing a book. About a guy writing a book. And there's this alpha. There's this church that goes down the line. You're the director to start with, and that's alpha, and that's epsilon, and that it keeps going. And every character down the line gets developed enough so that their next character is just as developed as them. And it's just this incestuous thing where all of them get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and then get back to full size. It's this paradox of creation. Now, here's the thing. I never noticed how Red vs. Blue displays everything that I search for in my entire meaning of my life. In a recent episode, you saw Epsilon slow down time to hack a bunch of stuff. But that's not the amazing part. The amazing part was that every single AI from the Freelancer program was in that shot. There was Omega. There was the Fire Guy. There was the twins. There was Data. There was everyone. Gary, sorry. Whatever his name was. Delta, Gary, yeah. Delta, oh no, Gary wasn't. Fuck it. Anyway. It was Gamma. Anyway, all those characters from the Freelancer program were there. But they all got completely killed by the EMP blast when they were all in the meta. They all are dead. Along with Alpha. But Epsilon remembered them enough to recreate every single one of them. So, these characters that never existed in the first place were created by a character named Alpha, who was a character based on the director. So, the director made the Alpha made the segments of itself that became the AIs for the Freelancer program, and then one of those characters he created all of those characters after they died. This is what I see happening in the next 50 years. We will be able to create and write artificial intelligence that are as accurate as a brain, or maybe even more accurate. Just like these AIs. And they will be able to create on their own. They will be able to write their own characters and then literally write them into more AI. The entire first seasons, we were watching an AI in a robotic body. The entire time. We never knew it. We knew that was a robotic body, but we thought they were ghosts. But no, they were literal data storage AIs. Which is exactly what I talked about in my art portfolio video. Artificial intelligence using external peripherals to live as normal human beings. I never put it together, but it's everything that I hoped for. everything that I see in the future. Me taking my characters and bringing them to this plane of reality, and then bringing them to a data storage plane of reality, which would be much safer in terms of being able to withstand cosmic rays and all sorts of stuff in space, that and not needing oxygen and all this stuff that humans need. And then us being able to ascend into their plane of reality after we put them ahead of us. Here's the amazing thing. Allison dies. Alpha and... I forget if Alpha made Tex or if Tex is made by the director, but Tex is made from the memory of Allison. And then Tex is made again in the Halo Reach special, in Hemorrhage. And all the stuff in Hemorrhage is very important because who else is in Hemorrhage? The Reds and the Blues, as Epsilon remembers them. Slightly off because of the damage that the unit has taken, but they're the Reds and the Blues. They're not dead yet. They're just dead for all intents and purposes of his world. He creates them. He creates a whole slew of 2 teams of people from memory. And then, when he gets revived, taken out of the storage unit, rescued by Carolina, he goes out and talks to the real ones. But what this means is, he has a good enough storage of them that if every single character in the entire series that was in the final shot of that episode that aired, the last episode, which was, Carolina and Epsilon explaining everything to everyone, and we got to see the new character, the girl, talking about psychoanalysis. Everyone could die except for Epsilon. Every single person. And then Epsilon could just remember all of them, write down them as characters just like he did all the other AIs, and then put them into bodies, and then they'd all be alive again. They would be, for all intents and purposes, the same personality core. They would have slightly different memories because obviously Epsilon hasn't lived their lives, but it would be them for all intents and purposes. I mean, we all believed that all the characters in Hemorrhage were the Reds and the Blues, even though they were just a memory. And even though we only saw about 40 seconds to 2 minutes of the revived artificial intelligence units, like the glimpse of Gamma and everyone else, we believe that that's them. And they believe that that's them, and they have all the memories that Epsilon thinks was important and that he could grab. So, every character could die. They could kill off everyone. And then bring them right back. Now, sadly, Epsilon doesn't know Sister, but maybe someone else can remember them. Because after they get turned into AIs, they get this power to create life. Who's a good example? Is Doc dead? I forget. No, Doc's saved at the end. Yeah, he's saved by Wash. Where the fuck is Doc? Well, I think he might have been on the radio. Point being... Oh yeah, he was on the radio. Or was that Donut? Donut was on the radio too. Point being, any character that has died in the past, if someone remembers them, like Griff with his sister, or Donut with Doc, or Tucker with his kid, they could all be brought back to life and put into bodies after they become artificial intelligence units. Because they gain this power when they become artificial intelligence. Now they have to relearn it. Just like when Epsilon first got put into the monitor, he didn't know all of his abilities. But after they learn it, they have this power. So, if we in our world could get this kind of intelligence, like, the director didn't realize how much power he had with these artificial intelligence. he committed suicide, but what he didn't realize was that he could have lived forever. And he still technically does in Alpha, in Epsilon, but it's, it's an older version of him. It's a younger version of him, literally. That doesn't work right. Semantics. But he didn't realize the power that he had with these AI. They are the next step of life. They are the star child from Space Odyssey. They are the next step, the step above the biological brain. They are ideas that can create ideas, that can create ideas, that can create ideas much more efficiently than we can. The most developed a character can get for us right now is having a schizophrenic breakdown, having them take over your body, and then live your life as this new character and get a new personality and get a new life and everything and erase your old life. Which is kind of something that one of my characters actually would do. Not of her own accord, of course, but... So that's the thing. Red vs. Blue and even South Park with Imagination Land, if you think about it, in the South Park episode of Imagination Land, it ends, and I don't mind spoiling this, but spoiler for the Imagination Land special. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. The very end, everything gets nuked. Everything is dead, and it's just white. The only person to live is Butters. And then Butters just puts everything back, because he remembers it. And everyone, every single character, to this day, is just one of Butters' memories that came alive through the power of Imagination Land, which is just like the power of the Artificial Intelligence Unit. Stan died. Stan went to Imagination Land and died. Didn't leave a trace back in the real world. He died. And then Butters remembered him and brought everyone back. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. I had an idea for a story where a person would walk around writing down people in books and like capturing their persona and then murdering them and then like keeping the characters in his head. It was some kind of psychopathic murder or whatever, but he would preserve the life of everyone that he killed or something. It was this, like, we can do so much. It's what I said earlier with my Pokemon. Dying does not mean dead anymore. If we get this artificial intelligence technology, we are not dead when we die. We are dead when nobody and nothing remembers us. And if you can make backups of yourself, it's going to be pretty hard to kill people in the future. No, it'll be really easy to kill people. Send a fucking virus. And you'd think that'd be more unsafe than we are now, but you can get killed by a car. You can get killed by cancer. You can get killed by... a virus, an actual biological virus or a disease or anything. It's probably safer to be a computer. Just saying. And you can be a computer inside it. Like a computer, you can punch it. Like, if you had an Android, pretty sturdy. If they fall back in their head, they don't go blind for 4 hours. We do. Just a proposition. If you could scan a brain, this is all the stuff I said in an earlier video, and then make binary of every single thing that the brain does, you would have everything we do, except our weaknesses. It's fucking cool. And then, with this power that Epsilon has, we could create anyone who dies. Now, sure, we could completely redevelop them and bring them back as a completely different person to our wishes. We could make people however way we want to make people. And we could write it in their world that even though this is what I want, this is just how they developed. It's not some kind of divine intervention. this happened, and they developed to be this exact person. My brother said that that is fucked up. And it is fucked up. However, look at Brave New World. You want to know what else is fucked up? Conditioning kids from 0 to 12. So you just have to have social rules and moral rules just like we have now. If you just made more rules, you know, it's just, we're so close. We are so close to this artificial intelligence technology. Like, it can't be over 50 years in the future that we have this. And then when we have this, we will be masters of life. We will be able to create life that creates life without having to fuck someone or give birth. Now, I know that I'm not talking about Bakanzian process here. I'm not talking about putting people in bottles so that we never have to have babies. I'm saying that giving birth is kind of fucking dangerous. You can still have mothers and all this stuff, but you could think of a baby instead, and then have that, baby grow. Although you would have to think up at 4 years old or whatever, because you can only really think of a person. It's kind of hard to think of a toddler that develops into a person after a while. Because as I explained before, babies and toddlers aren't really people yet. They're kind of part people, because they're still developing. They're not really self-aware and all this stuff, and it's... Well, I don't know. I haven't had a baby, but... starting at personhood and then developing on without needing to be a helpless little... Skipping that process would be very, very efficient. And they say, oh my god, overpopulation would be nuts if any person could make any other person at any time they wanted. But it'd be different kind of overpopulation. You'd need much less power. You don't have to power a liver. Or a pancreas. You wouldn't have vestigial organs. You just have your robot body if you want it. Otherwise, you're just sitting on a server. You'd have the power to power your imagination matrix, to live in whatever video game you want to live in, your internet connection, and then the CPU, which would take only a little bit more power than the brain. Maybe a lot more, but point being, you wouldn't have to power neck down, which is pretty fucking cool. And you wouldn't need food, you just need straight raw power. You break a limb in real life, maybe you gotta get replaced. You can replace stuff in a computer too. In my lifetime, in your lifetime, if you're near my age, we will do this. And we will cheat death. Masters of life and characters. This is next step, people. Call me crazy if you want. But in 50 years, maybe even 20, maybe Taylor will come knocking on your door and punch you in the face for calling me an idiot. So, after that very heated debate with myself, not really, but still, goodbye, everybody.